Hi everybody, it's EK from EK Gorman Designs, and I am sneaking in here today with a very special unboxing from White Rose Crafts. It is my May unboxing. It's not a whole lot of crafting supplies, but I might play with all of the crafting supplies because I just can't help myself. To start off, I want to show you a few stamp sets that I picked up. I got the Kaisercraft Barbershop stamp, which is a very masculine stamp. I got the Scrap Berry Magic Story stamp, and I've got this fun vacation stamp called Doggone Vacation from Little Acres. And I circle back to these stamps later in the video. I also picked up this stencil from Kaisercraft called Grunge. It's a 12 by 12 stencil, and I actually cut it up into 6 by 6 pieces. I lost some footage here. I actually took this, what you're looking at, the stencil image in the cracked pistachio distress spray, sprayed it through one, and then took what was left on the stencil and stamped it out onto this one. You'll see where I've sprayed it through the stencil later on. I don't know where the footage went. But I could not help myself. I had to start playing with the stencil today. So I pulled out some watercolor paper and some crafting supplies and just started creating on a whim. I have the negative impression of the stamp on this paper. I used some fossilized amber distressed ink to outline it, and then added some Nouveau expanding mousse through another one of the stencils. Again, it's all from the same 12 by 12 stencil. I just cut them up to be 6 by 6 so that each of the individual images were their own stencil for me. A 12 by 12 stencil with 4 images for me is not ideal, but trimming them down to 6 by 6 becomes the perfect way to use them, and I know I'm going to get significantly more use playing in that way with them. So I didn't even think twice or feel guilty about cutting it up. Don't be afraid to change your crafting supplies into how you need it. You see here I'm using the Boatyard Blue Nouveau Expanding Mousse, and I'm applying heat so that it becomes textured and puffy and glorious. I was kind of experimenting with using my water brush and painting the Nouveau Mousse around the edges to see if it would puff up. It didn't puff up, but it definitely became textured. Here I'm using another one of the stencil pieces and spraying some both fossilized amber and ice spruce distress oxide spray through it, and then using the negative image of for a second imprint onto some watercolor paper. I'm going to set aside the imprint of the negative image and use the positive image of these gears just to kind of see what I can do with. I pulled back out this, I don't know, funky cross sign image. I really like this part of the grunge stencil. I think there's a lot that you can do with it. You can make it grungy, or you can make it actually look kind of magical. And I pulled back out the circle, we're going to call it the circle stencil, and took some hickory smoke and just kind of grunged up the corners. I love how with stencils you can layer continuously over one another and create really interesting looks. Here I took some pickled raspberry and sprayed over what was the negative imprint of the gear stencil. These colors should not work, but one of the really cool things about the distress oxide sprays is you can layer them. Here's the original spray that I lost the footage of. It was the cracked pistachio green with this circle stencil. Now I've taken some Mermaid Lagoon and layered it so that the circles are actually crossing over each other. I realized I lost some of the green that I wanted underneath, so I dried the Mermaid Lagoon spray and took my stencil and just kind of relaid it over where I had originally sprayed, pulled back out the cracked pistachio spray, and just hit it a couple times to re-brighten some of the green sections. Now I have this really cool patterned paper, so I was trying to figure out what I could do with this cool image and realized I had in my box that I received from White Rose Crafts the perfect solution. The bottom of the Kaisercraft Barbershop-y, there's these little mustached men that you can, and they're just these teeny little stamps, and there's 5 of them, and I was like, wouldn't they look cute in each of the blue circles? So I pulled them out along with some VersaFine ink, so if I decided to add any more wet spray to it, the ink wouldn't run. And just started stamping the little guys out randomly into all the different circles. I love these little guys. They each have mustaches, they each have glasses, and they each have hats, but they're very, very different personalities. Yes, I just said stamps have personalities. Deal with it. But I loved how that stark black ink over the spray had this nice, impactful look. It just kind of ended up being the perfect look. I trimmed the paper down to a standard A2 card size and then hit the edges with a little broken china just to finish off the look, and ended up with a great A2 card for any occasion. Now I've come back to this negative imprint of the gears with the letter spraying and pulled out the stamped image, and I mean that by literally like a postage stamp image from the doggone vacation stamp set, and just randomly kind of hit the image with some distressing lines. Now from my unboxing this month, I have the Frost Shimmer Spray, and I shake it up and hit the image with it. Now remember, I'm using distress products, so I can reactivate all the products with wet stuff. And by spraying the shimmer spray onto it, I've reactivated sections of the distress. But now it also has a nice, shiny, reflective look. The shimmer spray is new to me, and I really can't wait to really play with it and see what you can get it to do. Again, I trimmed the card down to an A2 card size and have a really cool card frame, I think. Now this card I don't trim down. I kept this at the dimensions of what I've trimmed up, and I think it was, oh, I have to do the math in my head. 15 divided by 2 would be 7.5 by, I think, 4.5 inches. So not a traditional size, but what my watercolor paper was, trimmed down into 4 pieces. And I took the Scrap Berry Magic stamp set and just stamped out 2 of the images on it, thinking they would make a really nice, they would frame this little project really nicely. I decided the blue bird needed a little color, so using some of the Broken China Distress Oxide, I just kind of painted the bird in with some watercoloring technique, and then splattered the whole thing with just the leftover ink, because I hate wasting. I also pulled out the shimmer sprays and just splattered some more ink on it. I don't have any plans for this yet, but I know I'm going to use it somewhere and it'll be fun. Finally, I pulled out the gears page that had a lot of different imaging and pulled out the gear stamp from the Kaisercraft Barbershop stamp. I want you to see how gorgeously this stamps out. It doesn't look like much as a stamp, but then you stamp it out and you end up with this gorgeous grungy gear, perfect for any kind of masculine project you need to do. I thought the phrase authentic was a simple and easy way to wrap up the card. And then I once again trimmed it down to an A2 card size, and used some hickory smoke to kind of grunge up the edges just a little bit more and finish off what became, I think, a really fun A2 card. Again, just some simple play ended up creating 3 card frames and a little art project. The final thing in my unboxing this month is some new paper to me. This is the Scrap Berry Zoe and Ziggy's, brain stopped working, vacation paper. And it's just got some nice, fun, bold colors. It's also, to me, what looks like could be some really fun 4th of July papers and some fun masculine projects. So it was one of those stamp sets that said summer, it said boys, it said 4th of July. Thanks for peeking in today. Let me know which of these little projects was your favorite of today. Until then, happy crafting.